She told me to leave the house. She didn't expect what came next. Hey everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I've got a story to share. One I lived through, one that changed everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and strength. My name is Marcus. For years, I thought I was living the kind of life most people strive for. Stable job, a roof over my head, and a woman I thought I'd grow old with. Her name was Celeste. We were married for several years, but things didn't fall apart all at once. No, our marriage crumbled in slow, silent pieces. The truth is, I started noticing the cracks long before I ever saw the fault lines. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met Celeste during a particularly uncertain season of my life. I had just graduated, trying to find my footing in the corporate world. I wasn't making much, and I certainly wasn't climbing the ladder as quickly as I thought I would. But I was working hard, showing up every day, even when the results weren't instant. That's when Celeste came into my life. It began with simple conversations. Shared interests, laughs about our managers, debates about music, TV shows, and politics. The kind of connection that builds slowly but roots deeply. I didn't fall in love all at once. But when it hit me, it was real. She brought a kind of peace into my chaotic life that I didn't know I needed. She gave it rhythm, purpose, and I gave her everything I had. My time, my attention, my loyalty. I didn't have much, but whatever I did have, I gave it freely. 3 years into dating, we got married. We stood before our families, trembling with emotion, making promises that felt bigger than both of us. And even though we didn't have everything figured out, we had each other. Or so I thought. After the ceremony, her father handed her a small envelope. Inside it was a key. A gift, he said. Your new beginning. They had quietly built a house for her. Fully paid. No mortgage. No strings attached. I was stunned. Back then, Celeste and I were living in a tiny rented apartment. Hand-washing dishes, budgeting grocery bills down to the last cent. That house changed everything. Meant security. Breathing room. A chance to build our future without the stress that crushed so many young couples. I didn't care that the house was legally in her name. We were building a life together. And I thought that meant something. The first year in that house felt like a dream. Peaceful mornings, shared routines, evening walks around the neighborhood. We were in sync, building side by side. But time has a way of revealing truths you don't want to see. The shift was gradual. At first, it was her longer hours at work. Few late nights here and there. High priority project, she'd say. Off-site training, team bonding, traveling with the department. I believed her at first. But then, it became regular. The late nights turned into whole weekends. She came home distant, exhausted. When we spoke, it was only about chores, bills, who was paying what. The warmth between us evaporated. There was no intimacy, no connection. Just space. Worse than the silence was her defensiveness. Anytime I asked if everything was okay, she flipped it on me. Said I was paranoid, controlling. I began walking on eggshells in my own home, choosing when to speak, how to speak, just to avoid another silent treatment that could last days. And then there was her phone. Always in her hand. Always tilted away. Notifications came in and vanished before I could glance over. I wasn't allowed to ask who it was. If I did, she'd accuse me of not trusting her. One quiet night she wasn't home again. She said she was at another work event. I believed her, or maybe I was just too tired to argue. Her iPad was on the couch. I picked it up, planning to watch something. Instead, I opened the Messages app. Accidentally at first. But what I saw stopped me cold. Messages synced from her phone. A name I vaguely remembered. Someone from her office. And there it was. Sweet messages, flirtation, plans, hotel bookings. A fake work trip. That was actually a romantic weekend getaway. My heart dropped. The woman I shared my life with had been building another life behind my back. I didn't confront her immediately. I knew her well enough to know she'd twist it, make me the villain. So I stayed silent. But inside I was already preparing. I hired a private investigator. I consulted a lawyer. I gathered more proof, photos, videos, logs. And when the puzzle was complete, I made my move. One night, I asked her to sit down. Calmly, I asked, "What's really going on between you and Jeremy?" She looked stunned but not surprised. She knew the jig was up. Instead of admitting anything, she lashed out. Accused me of snooping, violating her privacy. Said I was the problem. Then she told me to get out of the house. That house I once helped make a home. She said it wasn't mine. "It was a gift from my parents," she sneered. "You have no right to stay." I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I stood up, walked upstairs, packed a bag and left. A few days later, the divorce papers were on her desk. I wasn't done. Before she could drain our joint accounts, I froze them. I wasn't about to let her fund her affair with the money we earned. She tried to push back, of course. Claimed I was being vindictive. But it was too late. I was done playing nice. And then came the twist she didn't expect. I filed a lawsuit. Not against her, but against her co-worker, Jeremy. Alienation of affection. A legal charge in our state. Because he knowingly interfered in my marriage. I had the evidence. Timeline. The receipts. That lawsuit rattled him. He called me. Tried to settle out of court. Begged, actually. Said he had a family, a career. Didn't want the scandal. But I didn't budge. I had been humiliated, betrayed, dismissed. And now it was time for accountability. Celeste reached out too, pretending to want peace. But it wasn't peace she wanted. She just didn't want consequences. She tried to guilt me. Said I didn't have to go this far. But I told her clearly, "You don't get to decide how far I go. You broke this. Now I rebuild my way." The lawsuit made waves. Their company, where both held senior roles, had strict policies about workplace relationships. HR launched an investigation. Within weeks, both of them were suspended. Then came the verdict. They won. And shortly after, they were both fired. That's when the flood of rage texts came from Celeste, calling me cruel, heartless, a monster. But I didn't respond. Because justice doesn't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes it comes like a whisper. Cold. Precise. Unstoppable. I walked away from that marriage with my dignity intact. And while the pain was real, so was the growth. I rebuilt from the ground up. Quietly. Focused. And as for Celeste and Jeremy, well, they lost each other too, eventually. From what I heard, the pressure and shame tore them apart. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Because in the end, I didn't just survive betrayal. I turned it into a foundation for something stronger. Thanks for listening.